Geoffrey Beene is his own man. His individual approach to fashion has set him apart.
He's a modernist, an artist, an American master. Geoffrey Beene is beyond comparison, and to many, without peer.
I'm an American designer, and my clothes look American.
He's one of the most influential designers in the world today.
His sense of line, his sense of color, the mix of irony and just the whimsy of it. His pieces are just timeless and gorgeous.
The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City this year acquired 154 pieces of Geoffrey Beene clothes.
I think there's no question that he's the best designer in America. And I think you could argue quite reasonably that he is the best designer in the world.
Geoffrey Beene, the winner of 8 Coty Awards, the most ever given to any designer.
I discovered Geoffrey Beene when I was kind of a kid, first exploring Vogue magazine. It brought so many ideas into my mind about how innovative you could be with fabric.
I think he didn't really concern himself with what other people were doing. So in a way, it's kind of removed from the timeline of fashion. And I think he's just staying true to what he believes his calling is.
Geoffrey Beene seeks perfection, and I think he attains it.
I've always admired women because of their beauty, and I try to make clothes to enhance and frame that.
Her talent is something Mr. Beene would have admired. Niloufar Mozafari is the 2009 winner of the Geoffrey Beene Design Scholarship.
My name is Niloufar Mozafari. I'm a rising senior at Parsons BFA program for fashion design in New York. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. My parents were both born in Iran. I kind of had to formulate my own cultural identity because I had, the kind of the forward thinking of America and then kind of the traditions of Iran. So I kind of had to balance the two. It definitely has a lot to do with my design aesthetic. Just to actually be acknowledged by the CFDA is like such a huge honor. Geoffrey Beene as well. They're really committed to the evolution of a young designer. There wasn't really necessarily anything like that before CFDA came around and became a part of the industry.
I'm from the South, and if you aren't doctor, lawyer, merchant, or thief, everything else is a hobby. I served my 4 years of medicine, and then I escaped by making my own money and going to France and studying fashion, which I had always wanted to do, but which was poo-pooed by my parents.
Fashion is a creative industry that is always about reinventing itself, nurturing talent, creativity. A big part of that is the relationship that established designers have with up-and-coming designers. When you look at a company like Geoffrey Beene, they're not just honoring the legacy of this iconic, legendary American designer, they're really investing in the future of design. To have young designers like the Geoffrey Beene Design Scholar enter into our family at that early stage is important.
One of my roles here at Geoffrey Beene is the keeper of the archives and Mr. Beane's legacy. The archives were always a very private department. We did not allow many people in there. It was a security factor to protect our designs. The archives start from about 1963. Mr. Beene at that time was not really collecting, but he did manage to save extraordinary things starting in the mid-70s. The collection accelerates in the 80s, the fabrications and the techniques Mr. Beene championed, as well as the 90s and up until his death. We have unique examples. They are, in fact, original samples. They were done in our workrooms. It's really Mr. Beene's body of work, which he and his assistants over the years selected. So it's the best of the best.
There were many applicants, and I think that as someone who's judging all these students, Niloufar's work was just the strongest. Her portfolio sort of gave me insight into how she saw Mr. Beene's work. She really kind of got his humor. She definitely has that thing that people talk about.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
It's very lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you again as well. Why don't we sit out here? You're going into your senior year.
Yes,
right?
I'm going into my senior thesis year. Through CFDA, my tuition for next year is completely covered.
That's so wonderful.
So it's a very cool thing.
Now you can splurge on materials.
I know, right? Senior thesis, now that's all I have to think about.
Your style has really evolved, especially for junior year. I mean, believe me, you sketch a lot better than most of the designers out there, so.
Oh, thank you. I just had fun, really.
Yeah,
you know, I used
great.
like cork to have, you know, different levels. I experimented with splatters, and I know that he worked a lot with, you know, kind of that idea of dance. So I wanted to have some stagnant figures, but also some movement. I was really trying to have fun as well, because I feel like that was really important for him, you know, to have that whimsy, to have that moments of humor.
These zigzag, the paint, you know, pieces really reminded me of a lot of what Mr. Beene did. We would take like rubber that we got from Canal Street and like paint them, and we would have like $200, you know, double-faced satins, and for accessories we would use like 99-cent foam. And I love that contradiction. Seeing how modern he got into the use of jerseys and the way he cut the silhouette, and the fact that he loved the idea of incorporating like just one seam for the entire fabric, you know, and creating a garment out of that. And that you can't sketch, you can't do by pattern. You really have to just work on the form to really get that.
I was kind of thrilled when I found out that it wasn't just a front and back sketch.
You can only get really wonderful stuff out of working on like a live mannequin, you know, and working three-dimensional forms. When I worked for Mr. Beene, it wasn't like working at other houses where you draw inspiration from other designers, you know. If we were sort of at a loss, we always went back to the archives, you know, because you have this vocabulary, you know, just years and years of work that you can always draw inspiration from. When you go to the archives, you know, you'll see his works from the 60s. What he was known for and how it's evolved is night and day. How many people get to see like real couture clothes? You know, not many. I think my standard has definitely been elevated having been with Mr. Beene for 6 years. And I think for Niloufar to see that kind of quality, it's gonna make her a better designer because she now has a sense of what to compare it to.
I realized the greatest influence was my study of medicine and gross anatomy, making me realize what an exquisite thing the body is, and movement and all those things that make grace of the body and action possible.
Kim Hastreiter presented Geoffrey Beene with his Lifetime Achievement Award for 35 years of leadership in design.
I want to thank the CFDA, my staff, New York City, and a segment of the American people. I'm very grateful.
He's an artist. He hates when I say that because he doesn't like to call himself an artist. He doesn't think he's an artist. But I think he's an artist. That's how he thinks. And even if he does something that's perfect, what I love about him, that he puts a bomb under and rips it all apart the next season.
We're going to Paper Magazine to talk to Kim Hastreiter. I brought my portfolio along, so we're going to be looking at the work, and she was one of the judges for Geoffrey Beene, so hopefully she'll be able to look at all of it. Kim Hastreiter is the editor-in-chief of Paper Magazine, and she was a very close friend of Geoffrey Beene. She has since gone on to write a book about Geoffrey Beene. It's a really remarkable book because it provides the technical aspects of his work and detailed shots of it all, but also it has some personal insight, his approach to design and where his inspiration came from.
Oh, hi.
Hi, it's
How
a
are
pleasure
you?
to meet you.
Nice to
Very
meet
nice
you.
to meet you.
Why don't you just sit over there?
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you know about Geoffrey Beene before this happened? or-
Yes, I did. I ordered your book, and yes, and I read it frontwards, backwards, upside down. It's really actually quite difficult for me to be inspired by fashion. I try to look outside of the realm of fashion. I think too many designers look at the past. This was really quite a challenge for me to bring something new, but also be respectful of Geoffrey Beene and his legacy.
And he would never want someone just to imitate him.
Right, exactly.
He wouldn't be interested in it.
Yes.
I love this presentation of how you did this. I thought this was so beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously you have a beautiful illustrative hand. Do you want to make your own clothes for yourself? Is that what you're seeing? Are you making clothes that you would want to wear?
Right, definitely. When I design, it's very personal, and you know, people always say that they can see me in the designs, which you know, hopefully is the case with
That's
designers.
wonderful about a woman designer, is you could design for yourself.
Exactly, right?
Even if your work has nothing to do with Mr. Beane's work, I just think it's such an amazing knowledge to have about how he looked at the body, be enlightened, you know, by his work before you start on your own journey. It's great. What are these things?
Just, you know, fun stickers.
I'm sorry, Geoffrey Beene would have loved that one.
Oh, great.
She got talent. When we judge and we look at everything, I'm like his advocate, and so it's really important to me to pick someone that Mr. Beene would have loved. The right girl won.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Fashion schools, I do suggest that in the curriculum there be at least a year study of sketching the human body. Because I think very often the students are drawing things that are very flat and they don't know that a lot of glorious